site, get what we need.
And this is this week's Closet Classic.
Strapping on a helmet, jumping on a fire truck, and fighting wild blazes, all images of a firefighter, images that have fed children's dreams for many generations. Al Fay had these same dreams and realized them when he became a Burlington firefighter. Now that he is retired, Al has time to concentrate on something that is truly unique to Burlington, Fay's Fire Museum. Straight from a boy's dream, Fay has literally thousands of toy fire trucks and fire paraphernalia, which is housed in this museum, which he converted out of his old barn.
I guess after spending so many years in the fire department, I've been collecting toys for so long, they were put away in boxes, and if you have them put away in boxes and don't get to look at them, it really isn't much pleasure in it. So I kind of thought, just jokingly, maybe someday that I would start a museum. And when I retired, I decided that I would turn this little cow barn that I had out back into my museum, and it just mushroomed from there. One thing led to another, and it was just a dream, and it isn't everybody that gets a chance to fulfill that dream all the time, you know. And one of the firefighters, Paul Sullivan, did most of the woodworking for me. We gave him the ideas, and he did the work for me, and this is how it got started. I started collecting, never having, the idea that I'd ever have a museum. It was just, you put one on the shelf and then another one and another one and another one, and pretty soon you have quite a collection going. And actually, when I came on the fire department, probably maybe 35 years ago, I started. I wish I knew then what all collectors know now. Those things that wound up in the trash barrel that you used to buy are all the sought-after toys now that any toy collector would tell you, but all the ones that we've got the kids over the years, we should have kept them,
Al finds his pieces in a variety of places, including 5 and dime stores, department stores, catalogs, toy stores, as well as yard sales and toy shows. He does admit that many of the pieces he buys are expensive, but it's the only way to get the older and more sought-after pieces.
This is the old horse-drawn engines, and my mother picked this up down in Florida about 10 years ago, and I happen to know she paid a couple $100 for it. I was never a wrought iron collector. My dad says, well, I take it home and I'll paint it up for him. And the guy said, no, you don't want to go paint it up. That will take the antique away from it. But if you look at this and really look at the detail, you can tell that it's authentic and real. Versus, this is basically the same idea, only it's made in our friend Taiwan or Korea or something like that, and it sells for probably $8.98 or something. But if you look at the horses compared to this, you can really see the difference, of what they are, Is the lunch boxes. Everybody's collecting lunch boxes, and that goes back to that show that was on television there, Emergency. I saw that at a yard sale. That was one of the better finds, Lady wanted 50 cents for it or something, Behind me on the shelf here is a lot of the, what they call Japanese tin. The tin toys are very, very sought after. And they're hard to come by, and basically the only place you can take a look at, some of them like this, and when you look at a toy of this nature, you just don't see anything like that today, and it's scary to think how much they're actually worth, but maybe back into the early 50s you could buy these for a couple of dollars in a Kresge's or a Woolworth store or something like that.
In addition to his collection of toys, Al has some interesting and unusual firefighting gear on display.
These are made by the Red Comet Company, and they're called fire bombs, and they're full with carbon tet. And you used to see them hanging in barns and houses, and they'd be suspended on holders, and the when the fire would originate, would melt the bottom of it, expelling the carbon tet to exhaust the oxygen and put out the fire. And I was fortunate enough, I was out in St. Louis, and I stopped at a local antique market, and they had this was what they call a salesman's display case. And what he would actually do is he would make a fire in the little test bottle here, and he would demonstrate on how these would be hanging in the house, 2 different styles. And this is another one here, and it would expel it. And I guess it goes back to the late 30s, early 40s or something like that. And I thought it was kind of a unique find. This is just some different types of extinguishers that I've picked up over the years. The price on this one is $3, and it's from 1912. It's for flue fires. And it says on the back, after you use it, the company will replace the chemicals and recharge you free of charge upon receipt of the application of a real fire. And it was $3. And this one here is basically a dry powder extinguisher that would hang on the wall, and you'd pull it off. And this was $18.99 as a date on it. And this is the old famous soda and acid extinguisher. It's a pony. They usually make them a little bit bigger than this one, or this is size as the pony. And what it is you unscrew the top. You put a cup of baking soda in there and fill it up to water to here. And there'd be a little glass tube inside here with a little floating stopper with sulfuric acid. And if you pick the extinguisher up like this, the stopper would fall off, mixing the sulfuric acid with the baking soda and the water, and that gave it some propellant to expel the fire. But there again, the residue that it used to leave, it would be now hazardous waste, so we don't use that anymore. This is a lamp that was made out of an old nozzle too. There's a fellow down in New Jersey that was a firefighter that got hurt in a bad accident, and he makes up those lamps, and I purchased them off of him. What it was is years ago, this is a miniature, but years ago you had maybe a foot square of each one of those emblems, and when they didn't have fire insurance, and they had these companies, and you would hang this plaque on the outside of your house, which would indicate that you had the fire insurance from one of those particular companies. And the firefighters would come and actually put the house out that had the insurance plaque, and they've been known to wet the house down that had the insurance plaque and let the one next to it burn because they didn't have coverage.
Al's collection is so huge that only a small portion can be put on display at one time. He circulates some of the pieces in the museum and puts others on display throughout the town. For aspiring young collectors, Al encourages them to take care of the toys they have now because they never know what they could be worth in the future.
I can't say enough to youngsters about taking care of their toys, all those matchbox trucks, those dirt piles that got them all buried, those little lead soldiers that used to sell in the 5 and dime store and stuff like that. You see a lot of them now, and I think that youngsters should really respect their toys and hold on to them and keep them up and look for collections. And there's all different types. There's people that are very, very interested in trains as a big hobby. But you see a lot of people that are firehouse collectors, too, you know. Everything is collectible today when you're dealing with kids and stuff.
Probably the most popular piece in Al's collection is his fully restored antique fire truck, which he houses in the garage next to the museum. Al routinely gives rides to his grandchildren, as well as visitors to his museum. The fire truck always makes appearances at the annual 4th of July parade and at Burlington's Pride Day.
It used to be Dracut Engine 1, and it kind of kicked around. A couple of 3 people had it. I've had it about 6 years now, I think. It's a 1940 Ford, and it was made by the Farrer Corporation out in Hopkinton at the time, I believe, you know. And recently, coming up on the 27th of August, my niece is going to ride to the church. She's getting married on the 27th, and she's going to ride to the church in my fire engine.
Oh.
So I kind of got it all spiffied up. We just had it painted and leaded, and all the nozzles have been chromed and brassed up and polished, and it ought to be quite interesting. We'll see what happens anyway, you know. There's a little bit of firefighter in everybody. Everybody likes the fire engines and the stories and the fire departments and stuff like that.
Especially the kids.
With the kids, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people come and visit, and it's the father and the mother that are more interested in that stuff lots of times than the kids. The kids, like I said, there's a little bit of firefighter in everybody. But every now and then you get a boy that's not really that interested, and it's his father that's insisting that he sit on the fire engine, but it's really the father who would like to sit on the fire engine, And I can relate back to that, too. I've always wanted to be a firefighter,
Al opens his museum to anyone who is interested in seeing his collection, including any schools who would like to take classes for field trips. Please call Al at 272-2516 if you're interested. It's definitely worth the trip.